Chapter 1. Quinn Xynyn woke to the buzz of her class group chat. Her room was dim, air stale, and the low-end mattress beneath her felt like concrete. She clawed for her phone beneath the pillow. Squinting past the crust in her eyes, she read, "Crimson Abyss beta test list is out. No joke? Just posted screenshot attached. 10,000 slots. Worldwide. This is insane." She blinked. Her brain lagged behind. Only after rereading the messages did she remember. Nearly a year ago, she'd submitted a beta application on a whim. Back then, Crimson Abyss dropped like a meteor. Full dive interface. The second world, as real as your first. Buzzwords stacked on buzzwords. What sold Quinn wasn't the technology or marketing. It was the final line of the game's summary. Light begets shadow. Beneath every city, rot. In this world, survival matters more than power, more than gold, life or death. That's the only rule. Grim. Honest. It struck a chord. She scrolled. The beta invitef granted would be sent via email. Her odds? Lottery tier. Millions applied. 10,000 selected. She opened her inbox. 1 unread. "Congratulations, you've been selected for Crimson Abyss closed beta." Her breath hitched. She reread the sender address, matched it against the official site. Once. Twice. Again. Legit. She'd won. First instinct? Sell it. A rare asset like this could be worth hundreds, maybe thousands. But the next line in the email crushed that dream. "This invitation is non-transferable. It is permanently bound to your identity." Her face fell. Quinn had no headset, no rig, no money. Her dad had vanished with investors' money years ago. Her mom remarried and sent exactly $800 a month. It covered instant noodles, sometimes bus fare. She lived alone in the crumbling flat her grandparents died in. Studied by day, worked at a bubble tea shop by night. Her phone was secondhand. Her life, borrowed time. College started in 2 months. She had the grades, not the cash. If she'd been able to sell the invite, that problem was solved. She scrolled again. "If you choose to participate, a full equipment package will be delivered." She exhaled. Fine. One less excuse. A link to a survey sat at the bottom. She clicked it. Quan. "If offered a new beginning, would you take it?" Yes. Q2. "Do you believe in gods?" No. Q3. "Do you want supernatural power?" Yes. Survey complete. Game instructions sent. Forum access granted. She bookmarked the forum. The next email wasn't a terms of service doc. It was a warning. 6 guidelines for players. Obey or don't. Consequences are yours. 1. Treat the game world as real. 2. Don't reveal your player identity. 3. Don't disclose game content. 4. 1 life, no respawns. 5. You either complete the game or die. 6. Everything has a price. That was it. No legalese, no non-disclosure agreements, just those 6 lines. The actual document? Dry. Standard digital contract. She read it twice. No mention of the 6 rules. She signed it anyway. Immediately, a pop-up. Confirm participation. 1 chance to opt out. This is final. She clicked confirm. Contract complete. Welcome to your new life, Quinn. She stared at the screen. Something about the phrasing unsettled her. She logged into the forum. Registration was instant. Just enter the invite code. She picked the username she always used. 233. No creativity, but it never got taken. Username final. No edits allowed. You are the 233rd registered tester. She blinked. The interface loaded. Bare bones. Metallic UI. Just posts, replies, and DMs. Top right corner. A number. Sure, Ling. Label. Surviving players. The number hit her gut like a cold knife. Threads flooded in. Dozens of languages. Some excited, some confused, most useless. She started to type a new thread. Anyone else think the 6 rules are wrong? She hovered over post, stared at the words. Treat the game as real. 1 life only. 10. 0 survivors. Her finger froze. She felt something cold press down in the back of her mind. She deleted the thread. Better to watch. New post. Anyone actually receive their headset or gear yet? Quinn's door knocked. She stood up, checked the peephole. No one. Silence. She opened the door. A black box lay on her doorstep. Label, Crimson Abyss. Inside, a silver card, etched with the image of a mechanical hand. Her stomach dropped. She had never provided her address. She ran downstairs in slippers, spotted some neighbors playing mahjong. Anyone see a courier come by? Nope. Delivery guy comes at 3. One auntie replied without looking up. Ha! Mahjong! Anyone go upstairs? Not a soul. She felt her skin prickle, July heat, but her back was ice. She looked down at the card again. Backside engraving. Revoker, Quynyn, 233. Same as her forum name, her registration number. Her scalp tingled. This wasn't a game. Something had already begun. Chapter 2. Quinn Xynyn curled on her bed, phone casting a cold glow across her face. It was deep into the night. She wasn't sleeping. Couldn't. Something about the day had clawed into her brain and refused to let go. She'd spent the last few hours glued to the Crimson Abyss beta forum. Most foreign language posts were gibberish to her, the site blocked screenshots, so she'd resorted to scrawling out foreign characters on paper and feeding them into translation apps like a lunatic. The numbers were rising. Registrations, posts, and unease. More than a few testers were asking about the same things. Those 6 ominous rules. The blood-red 10, 0 survivors counter at the top of the page. And then, there were the cards. Other testers had begun reporting it too. They, like Quinn, hadn't provided an address. And yet, each of them had received a black box delivered by no one. She opened the highest upvoted thread. Op/. Yes, I know privacy is a joke in the age of data mining. But this is over the line. If the devs don't explain how they got our addresses, I'm prepared to sue. The replies were a mix of outrage and paranoia. This isn't just creepy, it's supernatural. I live in the countryside, mail only comes twice a week. Guess how I got mine? My damn cat dragged the box in from the field. Mine was sitting in the chicken coop. Mine was inside a sealed appliance box I bought online. Thought it was a bonus gift. Turns out game card. Too random. Too precise. Each card had a unique title and a registration number. Quinn backed out of the thread and opened another, a card photo post. The poster had blurred their name and ID standard caution, but the front of their silver card was visible. It didn't show a mechanical hand like hers. It showed a blade, a pair of metallic scissors, sleek, lethal. Title, Executor. Quinn's card had been different. Revoker, Quinn Xynyn, 233. Only hers said Revoker. Why? She checked a dozen more card threads. All said Executor, none said Revoker. Her stomach tightened. She reached to her nightstand, grabbing the card again. It glinted cold silver in the dark. Her name engraved into metal. Her ID number 233. Her identity boxed and branded like she was a product. She stared at the title, Revoker. What did it mean? Why her? She checked the time. 23:59. 1 minute to midnight. Beta test officially starts at 00. She sighed, pressing her fingers into her temples. She had to be up early for a part-time shift tomorrow, a cashier gig for just enough cash to buy rice and maybe socks. Life of a broke nobody. Just as she set the phone down. Buzz. A new notification. Not a message. Not an alert. A system-wide announcement. All 10-0 beta players registered. Identity cards distributed. This test is non-monetized, non-wipe. There are no cheats, no shortcuts. Remember the 6 rules. Find your ending. Game start. Her blood chilled. Game start? Before she could even react, the world vanished. Her bed, her room, gone. The flicker of her fan, the hum of the street lamp outside erased. Quinn was standing, not lying. The ground beneath her didn't exist. Neither did walls or sky. Only void. A total, oppressive black. Depthless, silent, suffocating. The phone slipped from her fingers. Or maybe it simply dissolved. She opened her mouth to scream, but there was no sound. Like drowning. No air, no gravity. Only dark. Then, nothing. You have entered the new world. View your assigned identity. Text. Flat, synthetic. Echoing in her skull. And then pain. A spike behind her eyes. A pressure like her skull was splitting open. Quinn gasped. Pain ripped through her brain like a live wire. Something alien was clawing through her synapses, unpacking memories she didn't own. Somewhere nearby, a voice spoke. Sutures. Now. She's not gonna hold. Push another dose of neuroblock. She's fading. Needle. Skin. Burn. Quinn couldn't open her eyes. But her consciousness held. That was the wrong part. She was too lucid. The drug hit fast. Relief rushed in like ice water, dulling the pain behind her eyes. She wasn't dreaming. That much was clear. Dreams didn't come with nerve pain and medtech. She was in a clinic. Or a lab. Being stitched up like meat. And she knew with that deep, terrifying certainty that she was no longer in the same reality. Not a dream. Not hallucination. She'd been moved. Forced through something. The voice returned. Vitals stable. She's waking. She tried to stay still, think, process. The last thing she remembered, accepting the contract. Then black. Now pain, voices, and data. A screen opened in her mind. Name Quinn Xynyn. Faction. Federal Reclamation Authority. Infiltrator Cell. Role. Senior Operator, Mechanical Dawn Insurgency. Field rank. Provisional Patrol Officer, EFRA Enforcement Unit 7. Status, Federal Class, 1 Fugitive. Assignment, Embedded Double Agent. Primary Mission, Steal Critical FRA Intelligence. Gain Internal Trust. Support Insurgent Operations. She stared at the identity data. Unbelieving. She was a revolutionary. A cop. A criminal. A double agent. 1 character. 4 masks. This isn't just a game, she thought. This is a trap. She barely had time to absorb the implications before another wave of pain rolled through. This time, lower, like her entire torso had been opened and rearranged. She heard metal instruments clink. Sutures pulled tight. Her heart rate slowed. Mind settling. Eventually, she could blink. A flicker of sterile light hit her retinas. A glint of metal hovered in her blurred vision. Not a lamp. A scalpel. Glasses. She was staring up at the surgeon. "Welcome back," he said softly. "Surgery went well." She swallowed. Let her voice tremble. "What happened to me?" The doctor gave her a look, a mixture of sympathy and resignation. "Poor kid. First field op of your internship and you run into an armed suspect. Took a bat to the skull. Hairline fracture? Try obliterated." "Fractured?" He nodded solemnly. "More like vaporized. Blood everywhere. Looked like a melon. But don't worry, we upgraded you." "Upgraded?" He smiled too kindly. "We replaced your cranial segment with a Gen 9 alloy plate. You're reinforced now. Can't be cracked open so easy." Quinn stared at him. They replaced part of her skull. She had a metal head. The man chuckled. "Temporary memory fuzz is normal. The neuroplastic graft needs time to settle." Memory loss, she thought. Perfect cover. She didn't have the original Quinn's memories, whoever this body had belonged to, before the upload or transplant or swap. But now she had a reason. And if she was going to survive this, she'd need every excuse she could weaponize. Chapter 3. The surgery was over. They wheeled Quinn Xynyn out on a metal-framed cot that glided across steel floors like it had a mind of its own. The ceiling lamps flickered pale blue, casting an artificial glow cold, unreal. The cot turned a corner. A seamless alloy door hissed open, swallowing her into a capsule-shaped recovery chamber. The lead surgeon had already swapped his bloody gear for a white coat. His badge read, Huang Kunliang Medical Office Chief. He inserted a thin IV into her hand and sealed the glass canopy of the pod. Rest. Your wounds will knit in 12 hours. Press the green button on your right if anything feels off. I've got another cut job to handle. Quinn nodded silently. The med team left. The door sealed. Alone now, Quinn watched her vitals blink across the pod's internal display. Beep, beep, steady ECG. Heart rate between 80 and 110. Blood pressure low. Mild anemia. Everything, her body, her weakness, broadcast on screen like a public secret. This wasn't Earth. Not anymore. The Crimson Abyss was marketed as a full immersion world. But that line? A second world, as real as the first. It wasn't just PR fluff. Quinn had crossed over. This place was real too real. She wondered if the other 10,000 testers had ended up here like her. Trapped, assigned new lives, forced to start from scratch. Quinn adapted fast, like a weed growing through concrete. She'd raised herself. No parents, no safety net, just survival. Now, new world, new rules. But oddly, her current role wasn't the worst start. She was a rookie security officer injured during a field op gone bad. While healing, she had protection. Nobody expected much from a half-conscious rookie. The head wound? Convenient cover. Amnesia made deception easy. 12 hours. That's how long she had to figure things out. The metaphysics didn't matter. How she crossed over didn't matter. The question now was simple. How do I stay alive? The 6 warnings from the system echoed in her skull. Treat this world as real. Never reveal you're a player. Never discuss game content. One life, no do-overs. You either finish the game or you die. Everything has a price. That 4th rule stuck like a knife. Die here, and you die, for real. She had to assume it was true. No safety nets, no mercy. If this was the second world, did death here ripple back to the first? She wasn't about to test it. 12 hours. Then the mask came off. Then she'd have to play her assigned role. A rebel infiltrator. An enforcer. A traitor on both sides. Embedded with a group called Mechanical Dawn. Hiding in the department that hunted them. No backup. No reset. Quinn stared at the glowing lines as the pod scanned her body. Blue light slid across her skin. Restoration fluids pumped through her veins. The pain in her skull had dulled, replaced with an itch. Check? Status panel? She muttered in her mind. The system responded. Base attributes. Name Quinn Xynyn. Class Revoker. Abilities not yet acquired. Innate talents. Masscraft. Your acting can fool nearly anyone. Survivor's vitality. You're stubbornly hard to kill. Danger sense. You can feel threats before they strike. Rapid assimilation. You learn faster than most. Class. Revoker? She paused. The system chimed in. Revoker. A class that gains power by eliminating empowered targets and seizing their abilities. Her blood chilled. To gain power, she had to kill other powered beings. Their strength wouldn't just vanish, it would become hers. Her heart rate spiked. Abnormal vitals. Abnormal vitals, the pod chirped. Quinn forced herself to breathe deep, controlled, even. Eventually, the alarm quieted. She was still processing this brutal revelation when the room lights cut out. The door slid open. Someone entered. She turned, peering through the pod's transparent dome. It was Dr. Huang. He cleaned his glasses, tapped the glass and smiled. How are you feeling? Quinn opened her mouth to say she'd lost her memory, but he beat her to it. He opened the pod, slipped something into her hand, a blue chip. From the organization, they asked me to deliver this. Quinn froze. Wait, what organization? Dr. Huang's eyes gleamed with unspoken truths. He nodded. I don't know your mission. My clearance is low, but if you need support, I'll help. She stared. Blank. Also this, he added. A black chip, a silver band. Your cover identity's personal data. Read it carefully. Habits, routinesiacy to screw up. Quinn said nothing. Too many words meant too many risks. Dr. Huang smiled sadly. You made a hell of a sacrifice, took a blow to the skull, volunteered for cybernetic surgery. Don't worry, she was dealt with. Her data's been rewritten. From now on, you're Quinn Xynyn, Patrol Officer, Unit 7. So the girl she replaced had the same name. A rookie guard, dead. Quinn had stepped into her skin and taken her place. Keep sharp, Huang said. There are powered types in every department. Rumor is, the criminal division chief can detect lies. I understand, Quinn said flatly. He gave her a pointed look. For the dawn. That phrase hit her wrong, like a loyalty pledge. But she nodded, repeated it back. For the dawn. Dr. Huang vanished through the door, leaving her in silence. Quinn stared at her hand. The chip. The wristband. The trap. Mechanical Dawn had buried themselves deep, replacing lives. What was their endgame? She had no idea if escape was even possible. If the first world was gone forever, she was stuck here. She drew a slow breath, regulated her vitals. Her eyes fell to her class name again. Revoker. That ability, it was her only card, her only edge. But she was walking a razor's edge. One wrong step, and she'd fall into the abyss. No one escapes this role clean. If she betrayed the rebels, she'd be hunted. If she betrayed the state, same fate. She was already marked as a fugitive. No choices, no mercy. So Quinn Xynyn made a decision. She would treat this like a game. A deadly one. With only one ending, survival. She would reach the end. She would win. No matter the cost. Chapter 4. Probationary Enforcement Officer Quinn Xynyn, your vitals have stabilized. Exit the med chamber immediately. Quinn stirred. The haze lifted, and her eyes opened to the dim blue sheen of reinforced glass, the top of a medical pod. Embedded diagnostics blinked green. Stable. Recovered. No, it hadn't been a dream. She hadn't made it back to the first world. A nurse entered briskly, her expression unreadable, her movements practiced. She deactivated the chamber, detached the IV from Quinn's hand, then removed the gauze wrapped around her skull. You're free to leave, take it easy the next few days, no heavy movement. The nurse paused, then added, and don't forget to file your training exemption with your unit captain. If not, your shift pays forfeit. Quinn nodded without hesitation. Instinct. Missing a paycheck in this world meant risking your neck for the next. She slid her feet onto the cold alloy floor and stretched. Her body, though pale and lean, moved without pain. Whatever wounds she'd sustained had vanished without a trace. She stepped forward and caught her reflection in the mirror-finished wall. Short, practical hair, no trace of the long black strands she'd worn in the first world. Her face was similar, but not the same. Leaner, hardened, haunted. She stood alone in that sterile chamber of steel, feeling utterly displaced. She didn't know where to go, didn't even know where she was. From what little the surgeon, Dr. Huang, had mumbled, Quinn figured this facility belonged to the Enforcement Bureau. His badge had read Chief of Medical Ops, so this was likely their central med station. She also knew, thanks to the strange system UI in her head, that she was part of Field Unit 7. There was no time to hesitate. She couldn't afford to freeze. She breathed deep, pushed down the anxiety, and stepped toward the metal door. It slid open with a mechanical hiss. Beyond it, a corridor lit by pale strips of LED-like guidelights, utterly deserted. She took a step, and then a voice, flat and cold, rang out from nowhere. Probationary Officer Quinn Xynyn. Your unit commander, Captain Shuyar, has summoned you. Follow the green indicator lights. The floor lights flicked to life, blinking green ahead of her. A clear path. She glanced up. Cameras. Black glass eyes stared down at her from the ceiling tracking. She didn't stop, just walked. The lights adjusted with every step, guiding her like a rat through a maze. At each junction, the path pulsed to show the correct route. No room for guesswork. Halfway through the corridor, two men came from the opposite side. One was bleeding through a makeshift wrap around his arm, yet still walking upright. The other caught her attention. His right arm gleamed like metal under the ceiling lights. A prosthetic, heavy-duty, combat grade. Here, in this cyber-grit world, body modification was standard. Those without chrome were the exception. She herself, though appearing unaltered, was now one of them, with a reinforced cranium and a system UI embedded deep in her brainstem. Neither man spared her more than a glance. She decided to probe. "What happened?" she asked, as if passing familiar co-workers in a smoke-filled cantina. The injured man snorted. "What the hell you think? Port got hit again. Bastards dropped explosives like candy when I'm healed. I'm gunning every last one of 'em down." "Can it?" said the man with the chrome arm. His voice was ice. "Wait for the captain's orders unless you got a death wish." They limped past, cursing and grumbling. Another port bombing. Quinn filed it away. 2 minutes later, she arrived at a steel-plated door marked Field Unit 7, Capt. Shuyar. The door slid open. Her pulse quickened. She entered. A wide war room table dominated the space, surrounded by floating holoscreens flashing endless lines of data. A man in a slate blue uniform stood before them. Without turning, he said, "Sit." Quinn slid into a chair. Finally, he turned. A chiseled face, eyes like frost, tired but focused. "You did good. I'm giving you 3 days leave. Skip the training sessions." "Thank you, Captain," she replied automatically. This was Shuyar, her commanding officer. And from the sound of it, not a complete bastard. Captain Shuyar pinched the bridge of his nose and muttered, "Don't thank me. You getting hurt on my watch. That's on me too." Then, with a breath heavier than steel, he continued, "Before you're off duty, you'll need to visit criminal investigations. They need a full statement, everything you remember about the attack." There it was. Quinn's gut twisted. A cold bead of sweat slipped down her back. She knew nothing. Not a detail. No memories from the woman whose skin she now wore. She hadn't inherited a mind only, a body. This world was a labyrinth of dead ends, and every wrong turn could cost her everything. Before all this, she'd worried about affording rent. Now she worried about staying alive. "Captain," Quinn began, careful. I don't remember it clearly." Shuyar's expression darkened. "How much do you remember?" "I remember who I am. Probationary officer, Field Unit 7. She watched his face closely. His frown deepened. "Adam," Shuyar barked, "get medical. Have them send someone to evaluate Officer Quinn." The cold synthetic voice of the Bureau's omnipresent AI responded immediately. "Request acknowledged. Medical en route." Adam. So that sterile, omniscient voice had a name. A machine god watching every corridor, every breath. Quinn sat motionless. Shuyar's eyes scanned her. "You really don't remember?" "Nothing," she said. "What exactly happened?" "You tell me," he said grimly. "You were tailing a suspect planting charges at the port. By the time we got there, you were on the ground bleeding out. Suspect vanished." He leaned closer. "Quinn, we need you to remember. Anything about their face, their movements, anything." She held his gaze. "I'll try." "Medical officer is at the door. Shall I permit entry?" Adam asked. "Let them in." The door hissed open. In stumbled Dr. Huang, red-faced, dragging a med cart behind him. "Captain, what's the emergency? I just finished surgery." "She's got memory gaps, possibly trauma-related. Take a look." "Memory loss?" Huang blinked, surprised. But he didn't argue. He pulled out a neural scanner, a handheld rig that hummed with faint blue light, and ran it over Quinn's skull from crown to jaw. After a moment, he grunted and squinted at the diagnostic screen. "Could be post-anesthetic confusion, but I'm not seeing anything definitive. We'll need to run deeper scans back at MedCore." "Do it. Now." "Let's go, Quinn," Huang said. She rose. "Thanks, Doc." He nodded. "Just doing my job." He glanced back at Shuyar. "I'll report as soon as we're done." They walked in silence. The corridor was dim, humming with hidden machines. Huang eventually broke the silence with idle complaints. Port blast injuries keep piling in, 6 surgeries today, lost 2 too far gone, others are stitched together with chrome and synth organs. He shook his head. You're lucky, Quinn. You got out with your brain intact mostly. Quinn watched him from the corner of her eye. He was playing the role perfectly. Kind, overworked, honest. Too honest. But she knew better. This man was no mere doctor. He was a plant. One of the others. Every word out of his mouth was bait. Which meant every word was useful. When they entered the med lab, Huang tapped a button on his wristband. The lights dimmed. Atoms everywhere, he said flatly. I had to jam the room, can't speak freely otherwise. Gone was the cheerful tone. In its plaisquiet respect, I didn't expect the memory loss act, he said, but it worked, clever. Here, without surveillance, he spoke to her not as a nurse to a patient, but as subordinate to superior. Quinn Xynyn was no grunt. Not really. In this world, she was deep cover. A ghost wearing flesh. She tapped her pocket, confirming the cold weight of the silver wristband and data chip he'd given her. Both still there. That band likely had more trick scramblers. Cloaking if used properly. Can you forge a clean medical report? She asked. He smiled. That's why I brought you here. 30 minutes later, a fabricated report slid into her hand. Perfect. Believable. Back in the captain's office, Shuyar read every word of the report. His eyes narrowed at the last line. Recommendation. Memory may return with rest. Monitor closely. He sighed. All right, if anything comes back, anything at all, you come to me immediately. 3 days. Use them well. Quinn nodded. Understood, sir. As the door shut behind her, she exhaled for the first time in hours. She was still alive. Still unburned. But the danger hadn't passed. This world was built on lies and T-hand. She had just stepped onto its stage. Then the screen appeared. No one else could see it. Mission triggered. Mission briefing. Black Harbor, glittering jewel of the Federation, port city, economic hub, and gang-ridden pit of shadows. Someone's pulling the strings. Something festers beneath the surface. Investigate. Uncover the plot. Decide your path. You may accept. Or decline. Refusal brings safety. Acceptance brings power. Mission objective. Investigate the port bombing incident. She remembered the 6th warning she'd memorized before entering this world. Everything comes with a price. There were no gifts here, only contracts waiting to be signed in blood. She accepted. Mission accepted. Progress. 0%. Chapter 5. Quinn had leave. 3 whole days, courtesy of Captain Shuyar. But a more pressing problem surfaced the moment she stepped out into the corridor. She had no idea where her home was. She froze mid-step, mind blank, until her eyes landed on a restroom sign ahead. Quickening her pace, she ducked inside. Once inside a stall, she fished the silver wristband from her coat pocket, the one Dr. Huang had passed to her in secret. She slipped it on. A silent flicker of light ran across the band. Activated. The display blinked to life with a basic time readout. 19:38. On the surface, it looked like any ordinary digital accessory. But Quinn sat down on the closed lid, poking at the device like a lost relic from the past, trying to decipher a foreign artifact. Where the hell's the button on this damn thing? She muttered, sweating. She finally found a touchpad on the side. Biometric signature confirmed. A small blue projection flickered UPA floating HUD, displaying a list of functions. Signal block. Encrypted comms. Network sync. GPS tracking. Self-destruct. Quinn blinked. Wait, self-destruct? She read further. Hold power node for 3 seconds and throw to trigger blast radius equivalent to microgrenade. Her face went pale. Had she been fidgeting just a little longer, she'd be smeared across the toilet stall. Steadying herself, she pulled out a microchip the size of a fingernail jet, black, sleek. According to Huang, it held her entire cover identity. She placed it against the scanner. Reading data, completed. The display flicked to a profile. Name Quinn Xynyn. Background: parents deceased in a transit bombing. Insurance payout substantial. Enrolled in Black Harbor Institute for Forensic Science. Graduated top percentile. Recruited as Probationary Officer Enforcement Bureau. Field Unit 7. Current address: 230, 3 Anning Street, Portside District, Black Harbor. The file was disturbingly thorough. Every detail of her fake life was accounted for: habits, accounts, passwords, even behavioral quirks. Then something caught her eye. Debt. Substantial student loans. Despite a fat insurance payout, she'd borrowed 300 credit. Her heart sank. All that money gone to tuition. The price tag on knowledge was steep in this world. Brutal. She buried her face in her hand. Not only undercover in a conspiracy, I'm also drowning in debt, she whispered, defeated. After a deep breath, she dove back into the interface and tapped into the encrypted net. Her search query was simple: how to get from Enforcement Tower to Anning Street, Portside District. The answer: take line 13 of the maglev rail. Direct route. Thank the networks. At least navigation was easy. Apparently, Quinn Xynyn was a regular rail commuter too. That helped sell the role. Huang had dumped more than just her file over. 200 pages of data were embedded in the chip, not just hers, but dossiers on everyone in Unit 7, including Captain Shuyar. She skimmed the others, but devoured her own entry, word for word. Then she shut off the projection and pocketed the device. Too risky to linger. She washed her face at the sink. Cold water. Just enough to sharpen her edge. In the mirror, she saw not just herself but the map posted behind her, a fire escape plan, the full layout of the bureau's ground floor. Good, that gave her the exit route. Just as she turned to leave, Probationary Officer Quinn Xynyn, the AI's voice cut in calm but unnervingly omnipresent. Your time in the restroom exceeds standard post-op allowances. If you do not exit within 60 seconds, I will dispatch personnel to verify your status. What the hell? Quinn muttered under her breath. This AI-monitored bathroom time? I'm feeling a little off, she said aloud, voice neutral. Would you like me to summon medical assistance? No, just going home to rest will be enough. Shall I arrange an escort? She resisted the urge to swear. Adam wasn't an assistant. It was a warden. I can manage on my own, thank you. Acknowledged. Safe travels. She chose solo travel. Fewer witnesses meant fewer questions. Following the memorized map, she reached the elevators and descended to the main floor. The lobby was cavernous, quiet. A lone receptionist sat behind reinforced glass. Beyond her, rain blurred the world into gray. The glass doors opened silently as she approached. Humid air and cold mist rushed in. Warning, heavy rainfall detected. Please take an umbrella. Safe journey, Adam added, ever helpful. How considerate. She grabbed a black umbrella from the public rack, opened it, and stepped into the storm. Neon lights glinted through the downpour, painting the puddles in hues of cyan and crimson. She looked up. The city loomed like a god of steel and glass. Towers climbed forever skyward. Maglev rails crisscrossed above, glowing serpents slicing through the clouds. Massive holoscreens flickered on buildings, blasting ads with retinal-searing brightness. An airship drifted past, towing a glowing banner for biotech prosthetics. Rycon Industries Forge, the limb that forges your destiny. Rain smacked against her umbrella. The world felt cold, fast, and merciless. She scanned the street. People moved in the shadow suits and vagrants, models and drifters all soaked, all identical in the wet. Fancy coats and torn sleeves, all flattened by the same rain. Everyone was prey to the storm. She spotted the Line 13 transit sign and walked toward it. A few others waited under the shelter. She blended in, silent, invisible. Just another soul trying to get home in a world that had long since forgotten mercy. As Quinn waited for the tram, her peripheral gaze caught what would have once seemed alien here. It was just another Tuesday. The middle-aged man beside her had a prosthetic arm, sleek and matte black, Instead of a watch, he'd mounted a digital display onto the metal plating of his wrist. The time pulsed faintly on the screen. Just past him, a girl blew a bubble with her gumboth of her legs. From thigh to toe were polished mechanical replacements. Nobody stared. Nobody cared. In this world, steel limbs weren't a spectacle, they were just another part of the body. 3 minutes later, the tram arrived, gliding in like a steel serpent. The doors hissed open. Passengers filed in. The scanners at the entrance chimed one after another. Facial recognition complete. Payment accepted. Facial recognition complete. Payment accepted. When it was Quinn's turn, the machine blinked the same message. Good. That part of her identity was airtight. She stepped inside, found an empty seat, and let herself settle. Rain drizzled against the windows. Outside, neon lights bled their colors into the gloom, refracting through the glass into kaleidoscopic halos. Back in the first world, nothing like this existed. No floating screens, no chrome towers, no skies stitched with plasma rails. It dazzled her, but for all its color, this city was a poppy field poison dressed in beauty. Quinn lowered her eyes and checked the time on her wristband. 20:12. Night had fallen, but Black Harbor didn't sleep. Neon flooded every crack. Ads danced along every surface. The rain couldn't put out the fire of commerce. She watched everything with the wary detachment of an outsider. Every billboard, every airship, every drone. The tram pierced through a wall of holograms like a blade slicing light. The reflections danced in her eyes as the city blurred past. In her heart, a murmur echoed. I'm here, New World. Portside District, Anning Street. Please prepare to disembark. The doors slid open with a soft hiss. Quinn stepped into the rain. The difference hit her instantly. Gone were the towers, the glowing signs, the rhythmic pulse of electric wealth. Anning Street was cast in darkness, lit only by flickering convenience store lights and a few overhead lamps. The pavement was cracked, puddles forming unevenly in the dips. Compared to the Enforcement Bureau's high-tech zone, this place was worn, weathered, but, strangely, it felt familiar. It looked like home. Not here, not in this life, but in the one she'd left behind. Old neighborhoods, cracked concrete, streetlights that never worked, corner stores that stayed open too late. She walked slowly, following the route she'd memorized from the map. Then, smash! A bottle exploded at her feet. An old drunk slumped in a doorway, mumbling curses into the damp night. He didn't even notice her. A moment later, his head lolled back, and he passed out cold. Quinn stepped over the shards, eyes drifting to the graffiti-coated walls. Pigs out of our streets. The words were painted in angry red, capped with a crude skull dripping blood. Pigs. That was what they called enforcers here. She'd seen the term in old films. So, this neighborhood didn't like cops. Not at all. And judging by the trash, the tagged walls, the drunk lying in filth, security here was a joke. Nothing like her old neighborhood rundown, sure, but clean. This was something else. The sense of nostalgia vanished. The street was quiet. Too quiet. She took a wrong turn into a side, alley-tight, damp, reeking of mold. Just as she was about to exit, she saw a young guy in a hoodie ahead. She picked up her pace, planning to ask for directions. Then they stepped out. 2 men, rough faces, mean eyes. They flanked the alley like closing jaws. Each pulled a knife. Wallet now. The hoodie kid turned around at the shout, saw her, saw the man, bolted. Fast. Like he was used to running. Quinn blinked. So much for Anning Street. Nothing about this place was peaceful. Chapter 6. Quinn kept her voice level, calm. I'm broke, she said. I owe $300,000 in student loans. What the hell do you think I've got worth stealing? The 2 muggers hesitated. Silence. If you're gonna rob someone, at least aim for the rich districts, she went on, almost sounding like a schoolteacher. Here, Anning Street, look around. You think fat wallets walk around puddles and busted neon? The one on the left shifted uneasily. But the rich zones are crawling with surveillance. She's trying to throw us off, the other snapped. Don't fall for it. Why would I lie? Quinn raised her hands and let her umbrella clatter to the ground. Empty pockets, no gear, I live in a place with leaking walls. What's in this for you? The right side mugger squinted, suddenly spotting something. What's that on your wrist? Oh, this? She held up her silver band. You want it? Sure, come get it. He didn't move, but the other one did. The moment the man stepped in range, her outstretched hand curled into a fist. Then she struck. Crack. The blow landed square on the temple. Bone shattered with a sickening pop. His eyes rolled. His spine stiffened, then he collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut. Quinn froze. Holy. She hadn't meant to kill him. Just daze. Flee. Disappear. But her body didn't move like it used to. Back in her old world, she'd gotten into scraps, bruises, bloody noses, broken fingers. A punch like that would have wrecked her hand, not someone's skull. But this body, this new enhanced frame was different. She felt the bones give beneath her knuckles, the sharp snap of human skull against solid muscle and nerve-wired instinct. The second thug screamed, lunging with a knife. Too slow. Before Quinn even thought, her body moved, sidestepping the thrust with almost inhuman reflex. The knife missed her by inches. She grabbed his wrist. One twist. A flick, the blade was hers. In the blink of an eye, she spun the handle, reversed her grip and drove the blade into his ribs. Right through the gap. Straight into the heart. She let go clean. Stepped back. Not a drop of blood on her. 5 seconds. Maybe less. Her body had acted before her brain ever caught up. The man toppled. Dead. Quinn stood in the rain-soaked alleyway. Face blank, hands loose at her sides. At her feet, 2 corpses. Her umbrella lay twitching on the wet concrete, still open. She crouched and checked their breath. Nothing. Just the slow, spreading warmth of blood, mixing with rainwater. What the hell? Her chest rose and fell, sharp, uneven. Then the system screen blinked into her vision. Trait unlocked. Combat instinct. Like a beast bred to hunt, this is no learned technique. This is carved into nerve and bone. Training that became reflex. Reflex that became survival. She exhaled through clenched teeth. This wasn't her skill. It was this body's legacy. A rebel. A double agent. A trained killer. Her mind might hesitate. But her body? It remembered. From the far end of the alley came the sound of something falling. The hoodie kid was back. He stared at the bodies in horror. A metal baseball bat slipped from his trembling hand. Quinn wiped rain from her face, gave a weak smile. Hey, mind calling the cops for me? You heard them attempted robbery. I was defending myself. Yeah, sure, the guy stammered, fumbling for his comms unit. It took him 3 tries to dial the right number. A cheery voice answered. City security hotline, how can we assist you? Robbery, he looked helplessly at Quinn. Anning Street, she filled in. Portside District. Middle block. He repeated it, then mumbled, Do we call an ambulance too, or? No need, Quinn said coolly. They're dead. The guy went white as a sheet. You did that? Self-defense. Quinn didn't look at the bodies. Will you testify? That they pulled knives first? No cameras here. You're the only witness. He paused, then nodded. If you need me to, yeah. Quinn let out a long breath, picked up her umbrella, gave it a shake, and stepped toward him. The guy in the hoodie flinched, taking a cautious step back. Quinn sighed. Relax, you didn't bring an umbrella, and it might be a while before the patrol shows up. We can share one. She tilted the umbrella toward him. Name's Quinn Xynyn, student at Black Sea Institute. The kid blinked, then visibly relaxed. Zil Yang, I go to Black Sea too. What's your major? Forensics. He gave a low whistle. No wonder you handled them like that. Thanks for earlier, Quinn said, adjusting the umbrella to cover him more. No problem, just doing my good deed of the day, you know. My folks run a convenience store up ahead. I heard the shouting and ran back to grab a bat. He scratched his head sheepishly. Gotta go tell them I'm okay. The patrol will want our statements to wait here, all right? Quinn gave a slight nod, watching him jog off into the rain. Once alone, she flicked on her wristband and quietly searched. Lei Feng. Search results, 0. Exactly as she suspected. No Lei Feng, no mention of doing good deeds in his name. That concept didn't exist here. Bingo. This Zil Yang was from her world. Another player. Just like her. He'd stumbled through the same cracks, landed in the same nightmare. His clumsy use of tech, the way he fumbled the emergency call, his confusion about the district name, all signs he was new, and the Lei Feng reference, that sealed it. But one of the 6 rules burned in her mind. Never reveal your identity as a player, not to anyone. So she wouldn't. Not to civilians, not to in-world officials, and definitely not to other players. This was a role play, and she'd play it to perfection. 10 minutes passed. Zil Yang returned, soaking wet and carrying a second umbrella. Hell of a storm, no idea when it's gonna let up. Told my folks I'm safe, just waiting for patrol now. Quinn gave him a curious look. She'd half expected him to bolt. Honestly, getting dumped into an unfamiliar world and immediately dragged into a murder case would scare anyone off. A few minutes later, a hover patrol cruiser descended above them. A cold synthetic voice echoed from its speakers. Drop all weapons, hands on your head. Quinn and Zil Yang complied. The vehicle landed, and 2 security officers stepped out, rifles drawn, red targeting lasers resting on Quinn's chest. I'm Quinn Xynyn, she called out. Probationary officer, Black Sea Enforcement, Task Force 7. I was attacked en route home and acted in defense. The female officer narrowed her eyes. Adam, scan. Scan complete. Facial ID confirmed. Statement matches internal records. Good evening, Probationary Officer Quinn Xynyn. Zil Yang. Citizen Class 4. Student Black Sea Institute. Mechanical Engineering. No criminal record. No threat detected. Rick Fallow. Citizen Class V. Unemployed. Criminal record. Robbery, theft, deceased. Drina Cobb. Citizen Class V. Unemployed. Criminal record. Theft, vandalism, deceased. The officers holstered their weapons. Standard procedure requires a formal report, one said. Please come with us for questioning. No problem, Quinn replied. She gestured toward Zil Yang. He's a witness. Understood. The woman gave her a firm nod and clapped her lightly on the shoulder. Nothing to worry about, just protocol. But that's what made Quinn pause. They were too casual. She'd killed 2 men. Granted, both were scum with long records, but still there were no questions, no suspicion, not even a hint of reprimand, not even a warning. Why? She boarded the cruiser, sinking into the rear seat beside Zil Yang. The hovercraft lifted off, carrying them back toward the looming monolith of the enforcement tower. Zil Yang glanced over. Damn, you got connections in there, huh? Could have said something. I wouldn't have stressed so hard. Quinn closed her eyes, leaning back. Yeah, real powerful. Just a broke-ass intern with a 300 keg debt to her name. She sighed. Didn't even make it home. Back to the grind already.